What age is appropriate for a bikini competitor to start a cycle? Listen, I can give you a hard line in the sand and say, okay, until you are this old, you should not use PEDs. I don't like the idea of telling someone that, okay, once you reach this age, technically, you are allowed to use PEDs. Don't think it's that black and white. Understand that there is an associated risk with using these drugs, whether or not you are earlier on in your career, whether or not you're a master's competitor. Using PEDs, yes, if we're talking about anabolics, that comes with a higher risk. And it's something that I think people, specifically those who are younger in the sport, who are getting into the sport at an earlier starting point, they should be very weary as to using PEDs prior to them maxing out their natural potential. Now, if someone comes to me and is like, hey, you know what, I have high aspirations to be a top wellness, a top figure competitor, if they're checking all their boxes, if they're doing everything that they can within their power to get the most out of a process that is already happening, you should do what makes sense for your aspirations in bodybuilding relative to the risk that you want to take. There are individuals who get into the sport very early on. There are also individuals who get into the sport later in life and they want to get ready for their first show, yet their understanding of PEDs and the associated risk is very low. Just because someone's a little bit older, it doesn't mean that they have this free pass to go about using PEDs recklessly, unless they're okay with the associated risk. Now, if you want to get into the hormonal impacts and how this might be different based on someone being a little bit younger getting into the sport, I can tell you at this age, no one should be using PEDs anytime prior to. But ultimately, the ideology that I buy into, the framework that I follow, is that if you understand the associated risk with using the drugs that you're considering, it is up to your discretion as to whether or not you want to use them. It's not my place to tell you that it is okay or not okay. Safety is something that's highly individualized, and it is relative to what your goals are around preservation of overall health. A younger athlete, sure, I'm going to be more considerate about how being hyper aggressive out the gate would potentially and likely impact them later on in life. But this isn't something that should be limited to just simply younger competitors. If they are getting into competing at a later age, I'm still going to approach how I introduce them to the idea in the framework of PEDs very similarly to a younger athlete.